How deep's a frog pond?
A frog pond?
A frog pond.
I believe it's nip, 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 nip,
Oh! Welcome to Progressive Soup.
Hello.
My name is David Stevenson. I'll be tonight's host. With us tonight we have Mo Niklz. Mo's been with us before about a year and a half ago talking about Haiti, the earthquake in Haiti, and also talking about hip-hop, which he's involved in.
That's correct.
So tell us, what is this hip-hop thing, and what is this sampling stuff that you do?
Oh, yeah, I'm a DJ, Connecticut-based, right here in Danbury. I've associated with a lot of other people, a lot of groups, probably doing 2-3 shows in Connecticut mostly a week with obviously the Ant Farm affiliates who I came through with, and we actually just had a fellow of the Ant Farm affiliates. He just
true that.
True that, yo.
Yeah, true that, yo. True that, yeah.
Yeah, he actually just got married on Sunday to a beautiful new wife.
Excellent.
And I got to DJ for that, which is nice. And, he had Sketch the Cataclysm, another member, actually perform a couple sets, and they ended it as they always end of the Cypher by doing Jump Around, which was very appropriate for their wedding.
Now, a cipher. People have heard the word cipher, and it has does it have a different meaning in hip-hop than it does in
generally
regular
with hip-hop,
lingo?
A cipher is... they will, put on an instrumental, a beat for people to freestyle over. Or in some people's instances, they will write something and they could talk about anything, be it what's going on in the news or what's in the room, and try and incorporate a good one will try and incorporate the audience with it and make it an actual part of the show that people can kind of participate in.
So it's kind of a background thing, perhaps, but it also could be something that's a background thing that maybe generates a response of some kind from the audience.
It's like a jam band, type thing, but with from a hip hop aspect of it, where they're kind of going off on a tangent off the top of their head. It's the same but different.
So kind of like in a lot of types of music, you have drumming, and the drumming sort of sets the tone. The meter.
They'll have the tempo set and stuff. I'll be playing, instrumentals from random other songs that I have a very vast library of, everything from Peter Gunn to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, jeez.
Random hip-hop hit songs and stuff like that. So... But yeah,
and then the audience can react in one way or another, and you can react to the audience's reacting to, and the audience can react to your reacting to the audience's reacting. Right. So it's sort of like, if we have a lot of folks in Danbury that are from India, and they'll note that in their music they have the tabla, which sort of sets the background, the mindset, for Indian, for raga.
Right.
So it's sort of like that in a sense, except in hip hop, rather than raga.
Yes, that's true.
That is crazy. So what are some of the things that you've used as background as setting the tone?
Oh, well, I actually have a whole video set up now. So when you say background, I have an actual projector up there setting video backgrounds and stuff, which is great on the stage. I can sample.
Get a multimedia kind of feel to it?
Yes, I can actually, instead of just playing a video, I can play actual music videos or create my own videos. Like I'll take stuff from famous, funny movies or TV shows like Chappelle's Show, anything really, The Simpsons, your favorite, that stuff. Yeah. But it's great. It's good for me because Homer always says Mo, so I can always have that sample.
There you go.
I just got
Mo's
a sample.
Tavern.
Yeah.
You are Mo's Tavern, other Mo.
I'm particularly fond. I found one where Police Officer Wiggum goes, "Oh yeah, that scuzzbag Mo." So.
Jeez. I'm sure the audience appreciates that.
Yeah, well, it's fun. That's kind of the environment I'd like to, especially with my name, Mo Niklz. It's just kind of, that's kind of the environment I want people to come out and have fun at the show.
All right, everybody's going to want to know, of course, what in the world is the derivation of Mo Niklz? Where did that come from?
That actually came from, I was thinking up a DJ name for a friend of mine, and his name was Nick Lane, Nick L. I wanted so badly to have him be his DJ name Nickel, but because he reminded me of a friend that passed who actually got me into DJing. He spun the same exact style, and he even danced the same. Like, he did the same stupid dance, and never met the guy, like, lived 3 states over, and he didn't want to be DJ Nickel or something. So I said, you know what, forget that. I'm going to think up a DJ name with, like, the nickel in it that's so good that he's just going to say, yes, this is my DJ name, because he was DJ Nick. And I'm like, that's, yeah. Well, he didn't even want to do the Nick L, but that was, like, his actual initials were Nick L. And, my friend was obsessed with Niklz, and I was watching an episode of the Boondocks, which is a cartoon where it's very progressive. Yeah. And they had this cousin Mo on there, and he was Mo this, Mo that. He's like, he was like a fighter pilot. He's like, I always shoot stuff down. They call me Mo Guns. He's like, I'm great with the ladies. They call me Mo Bitches. Oh, jeez. And it just popped in my head. I was like, that's it. That's a great nickname or that's a great DJ name for him, And then before I even called him, I was like, you know what? Forget, that's my name. I was like, I like that so
hard
much.
To create that you didn't want to give it away.
Yeah. I was like, it's perfect for me. It's it's a fun thing. It helps to do the throwback thing to my friend that got me into DJing.
And it's very rhythmic, which is of course a lot of the essence of sampling.
Yes, yeah. Knee deep.
Yeah, right. Okay. So now, folks that are watching that are even a little older than me, people in their 70s, 80s, that are significantly older or significantly wiser, perhaps, will remember there was a group way back. I'm thinking 30s, probably 30s, maybe into the 40s. Red Niklz and the Five Pennies.
This I don't know.
And the movie had Danny Kaye in it. And the movie was called, I think, Red Niklz and the Five Pennies, and that was the name of the band. And, of course, Red Niklz, and the nickel breaks down into 5 pennies.
Yeah.
I don't know if all the women in the group were named Penny. Who knows? But at any rate, that was the nature. That's a lot of the same...
I'll have to look through that movie for samples.
There you go. Yeah. You'll have some samples in there. So you'll have Mo Niklz and Red Niklz.
Yeah.
So you were on last year. We were talking about Haiti. And... we talked a little bit in a political vein about stuff going on in the world and people getting involved in helping other people and supporting people in their time of need, and some very, very good kinds of things that were happening in Haiti.
That was a great thing, the way everybody came together like that. Like, you came out, we did that, and it almost worked out kind of perfect for us because, I mean, as horrible as it was, that accident happened that Monday or Tuesday, and then we had the show Friday. We just said, this is the Haiti benefit. Yeah. All this money is going to Haiti. I've probably done like 3 or 4 benefits for Haiti, like, after that, during that year. But
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're involved in doing benefit shows occasionally.
Yeah, I did 15 last year. Probably about 10 this year for random different stuff. I did the Danny Holt, the baby bus benefit. We just did 2 weeks ago at the end of the Cypher, which got kicked out. Larry's closed down, so we're doing it every other fourth Saturday at Acoustic Cafe in Bridgeport now. Okay, yep. But the Danny Holt, one of the members of Ant Farm.
I was going to say, tell us about Danny Holt.
He was a great, he was a very young, great man who spent like all of his time with kids. He worked at like the Bethel Y or the Brookfield Y, and they had a lot of stuff. And with Danbury kids, he always, he just spent all of his time with all these kids, and he was a great football player. Hence the baby bus, they called him, the little Jerome Bettis. Yeah. But so he actually died at the age of 21 or 22 of lung cancer. Yeah. So his family, they started the Danny Holt Foundation, which all the money to that goes to. Stuff for low-income families to do, or for low-income children to do, which is really great. So we just did that 2 weeks ago. That was actually the start to. I just did like a week-long tour with Sketch the Cataclysm. Willie Green and Premrock, 2 guys from New York City, sketches from Waterbury, and he's from Ant Farm. And that was great. We went all over New England, a couple shows in New York, Malden, Connecticut. We were supposed to go up to Vermont, but that didn't end up happening. But it was great. It was it was my first experience on the road, and it was just every show was just great. A lot of positive energy. And we're talking about doing a coastal tour in March, which will be great. Which will end up in South by Southwest, which is like the indie music scene to be a part of for the year. Which that's where anybody looking to do stuff does their networking there. In Austin.
You mentioned New York, and as the folks who watch the show know, there's some events going on.
Yeah, there's something happening in New York.
Yeah, and apparently
there's some people there. I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, down in Wall Street, and if you didn't mind singing on Broadway,
I thought that they're not allowed on. They're not actually on Wall Street. Don't they have Wall Street blockaded off?
Yeah, Wall Street's blockaded off, and I have to confess that I was down there for opening day, September 17th.
Wow.
And I was down there again last Wednesday for the entire day, and it's quite energizing, and the folks down there are great patriotic people of all ages, all ethnic backgrounds, all ages, with the basic common denominator being they would like to see the uber wealthy in America pay their fair share.
Yes.
And I'll preach for a second, because I did an interview with CNN. Mm-hmm. And in that interview, which was capsulated down, they took about 10 minutes of questioning and question and answer, and encapsulated down to about 50 words, but a little bit beyond what got printed on CNN. If you want to Google CNN David Stevenson interview, you'll see it.
You'll see it there.
You'll see it right there. I talked about how I'm an Eisenhower Republican. Mm-hmm. And grew up during that time, born during the Eisenhower administration, got my feet wet a little bit at a very young age with politics. And I like Eisenhower because during the Eisenhower administration, the top tax rate on the wealthy was over 90%. And they seemed to enjoy the fact, or seemed to appreciate the fact that they were getting wealthy. They lived in a country that was great, where they could become wealthy, and they didn't mind.
Yeah, they gave them so much. They didn't mind giving back.
They didn't mind giving back, exactly. So the top tax rate was over 90%. And by contrast, nowadays, the top tax rate is about 30%. And you hear a lot of these folks whining about it. Oh, it's too much money, it's not fair. And even beyond that, a lot of executives work and they get paid in stock options, which after 2 years, stock options or capital gains are only taxed at 15%, the capital gains rate. And so they're really getting off. And still they're whining and moaning.
They like their money.
I'm thinking back to a day not too many years ago where America was doing great financially, and the rich were paying their fair share. Now, maybe we'll never see that 90% top tax rate again, but certainly more than 30%, and certainly more than 15%. And people shouldn't. Well, Warren Buffett doesn't complain about it. Warren Buffett, who's one of the richest men in the world, he likes to tell the narrative about how his secretary pays a higher tax rate than he does, because most of his income is passive income.
Yeah, I was going to say, I swear my friend who made, my friend I'm doing construction with, he made like $70,000 last year, and he gave like $25,000, $30,000 in tax. That's over 30%,
Sure enough. Sure enough, and that's a guy making just a regular middle class, 21st century middle class salary.
Yeah, and he's barely being able to, he's got his wife, his family, a mortgage to pay. Like, that's bare bones enough to get by. To do
Very
that.
bare bones for a family, certainly. And yet somehow or other, some of these folks on Wall Street are whining about having to pay 30% or even 15%, and it's sad. And I'm kind of hoping that they wake up and do what's right for their country and join in with these patriotic folks that are down in Wall Street. And also, at this point, there are over 300 get-togethers across America.
It's spreading like wildfire.
One in every state. Even South Dakota and North Dakota have an Occupy situation where people are actually camped out. Now, with all due respect to the Tea Party folks generally at night go back to the Winnebago.
Yeah,
so they're like kind of living in luxury when they're doing their protesting. Now the folks that are down in Wall Street and elsewhere in America, they're sleeping in sleeping bags.
Yeah, these are the people that are directly affected by this.
Yeah,
yeah, and they can't afford a Winnebago to go sleep in.
No, and they're given their time, and a lot of them, of course, are unemployed or marginally employed. But a lot of folks like myself who are very gainfully employed are given a day here, a day there, and going down and supporting folks that are true patriotic Americans.
And also, what I found very unfair was a lot unlike the Tea Party. The Tea Party was instantly recognized on the news. It seemed like Occupy Wall Street. It was like 2 or 3 weeks before it got any.
It took a couple of weeks, and it actually really hit the news after we had a little incident down there on a Saturday where folks were walking across the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah,
and the police officers advised them to walk in the lane, to walk in the traffic lanes, and they could go across the bridge. Now,
that wasn't really the point.
Yeah, somehow or other they got the wires crossed somewhere, because halfway across the bridge they had the paddy wagons. With all due respect to my Irish brethren, paddy wagon, comes from the days of Irish cops. And anyway, they had the paddy wagons ready to arrest, and they arrested 700 people.
Yeah, it was almost 800. I thought it was like 745 or.
Yep, they handcuffed them and they took them away and they held them for 36 hours, and.
See, I was lucky. That was while I was on tour. I was actually. Yeah. We just left Brooklyn the day before to come back to get it. So we kind of lucked out on that, I guess.
So we're talking about how hip hop and how music in general, how it can influence political events and sociological events, and how it can maybe gain from those events and give back. Sort of like the way we were sampling and bouncing back and forth at the beginning of the show. It's sort of like how music and how real life events interact. Tell us more about what you've been up to with that.
Well, I've been doing a lot of stuff. I always stay posted with this stuff because on all the social networks I have all these rappers that want me to follow them on Twitter, on Facebook, so they always show me all this stuff, and believe it or not, a lot of these MCs feel like their opinion matters, so they whether or not it does is irrelevant.
Now we're not really talking about gangster rap here. We're talking about hip-hop. Now,
yes.
What separates hip-hop from rap?
A lot of people would say that it's much more of a basis. Like hip-hop was an idea of, in like the late 70s, it was a lifestyle, really, where it was all these people coming from areas of, Brooklyn or Harlem that had nothing, and it was just kind of a lifestyle of through like music and song and dance, like break dancing and graffiti. Like people were going up and they even then they saw graffiti. A lot of people see it as vandalism. They see it as making an artistic expression. Like they see all these big buildings that are just like brick walls and stuff. They see that as like a corporation takeover. Yeah. So, and I think it's great that you see a lot more like even stuff like that you see down on Main Street where they have paintings and stuff on the sides of walls now. Yeah. Like people don't do graffiti over that because that's what they were trying to do. Like they're trying to make an art, like trying to make the city beautiful. Whether or not people thought it was beautiful is, that's debatable, but that's always the case with art. I mean, people look at Andy Warhol stuff, and a lot of people will say that's great, and a lot of people will say, well, what's that? That's a Campbell soup can. Yeah. But no, it's a representation of a Campbell soup can, so it's a little bit apart from reality. It's a little bit takeaway from reality, and Andy Warhol stuff with Marilyn Monroe and all that other stuff, and likewise with this kind of art. And I see a lot of it, and I say to myself, "Nah, it's not really that exciting." Yeah. But you see a lot of it, and a lot of it is if you open your mind and give it a shot, some of it's pretty interesting. Yeah, a lot of the designs, especially, like they're getting, Nike. They're in Nike commercials now. All the graffiti stuff, all the DJing and stuff. But yeah, the hip hop was more based on this notion of giving back to the community, trying to find something for people to do, and then obviously like a lot of rap, it's like people saw that is a big corporation kind of, who can we throw money at to make us more money, that's interesting. And that's all the stuff that gets played on the radio. I do a lot of shows with a lot of truists, like Satorius of Political Animals. He's really into getting, or Deucebug, the Cipher-Knots, they all really want to convey like a positive message to people or bring attention of certain things to people that they may not know about. Like Sartorius is actually, he's being a big part of the Occupy Hartford up there, because he lives up by there in like the New Haven. He's gone to, I think, like all the meetings that they've had for it to help plan it out and stuff. But you know, it's just it's more so than, and they also, I love it more because they do more of a show. Like they don't just, I see a lot of rappers, they just get up there and they just kind of go up and they just say stuff. A lot of them have their own songs that they perform over.
So it's more random rather than thought out.
Yeah, yeah, and they just kind of stand up there and they do this or that. You know, a lot of these other guys, they'll like we were saying with the Cypher, they get a reaction from people, you know, or talk to people, which is something I'm trying to work on. It's just having a way, there's a certain way that you can talk to people. It gives you like a charisma, you know, a good kind of like energy that you can create and try and hopefully bring it out of the people that are at the show.
A positive vibe back and forth.
But yeah, so I'm trying to do shows with them. They're great. They're getting a lot of play. You know, Ant Farm guys, obviously. These guys, the Full Blast Movement from Norwalk, to Bridgeport and Waterbury, Ant Farm. I've DJing for so many people in Connecticut. How
do you adapt from one group to another, from one group of individuals to another?
I try and play music that kind of sets the tempo for the night. Like they'll give me a CD and I play it, and a lot of times I have to play just a CD, and I get people that are just on there as openers, and it really kind of stinks because they actually have a song that they're just standing up there with the song that's playing. They're not, to me, in my eyes, they're not performing. You know, I think like Madonna or Britney Spears or somebody.
It's almost like they're lip syncing.
Yeah, like I feel like it's okay for them to lip sync because they're doing all types of crazy stuff on stage.
So there's some
like they're actually like doing a performance. These other guys are just standing there, and that's like what a lot of rap is. This is just, there's no real emotion involved with it. They don't even know if there's a problem with the CD. They're just on there on stage in dead silence, and they go, "What do I do?" I was like, "I don't know. Talk to the people." They go, "I don't know how to talk to people." Why are you on stage? You don't have anything to say to these people. They think that they're just going to make this instant hit and live off of it. And
the ultimate thing of any kind of art is communication with the audience.
Yeah, it really gives me a lot of appreciation for stuff that's not hip hop, because those people have to at least learn how to play a guitar before they get on stage. Yeah. They don't just, you know, I made this song and I'm just going to get up here and do this. They could be doing anything. But
interesting. Yeah.
You know, maybe.
Well, I'm notorious for avoiding getting arrested. Yeah. I've never been arrested in my life, and knock on Formica, I never will.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of not being arrested as well.
But you know, I've had great conversations down in the Wall Street area with officers, with the police. And I'll tell you, well, the funny thing was, and you might appreciate this because of the musical and the artistic part of it, was when police officers have to stand in a line for, I'm going to say, maybe 4 hours straight. That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
That's tough on your legs. That's tough on your entire body. But I noticed through the course of one of the days that the police officers basically had three stances. They'd have their feet spread about this far apart, about let's say 2.5, 3 feet apart for comfort. Yeah. And then part of the time they'd have their hand over hand like this, and part of the time they'd have their two hands on their belt, and part of the time they'd have their arms crossed. Okay. So I'm thinking that maybe you could almost take those actions and that series of actions and almost create something called the police officer Macarena. Yeah. It was almost like that. It was just very interesting. But I had great conversations with police officers, great conversations with folks that were there. Now in Wall Street, they actually have a minor city set up in Zuccotti Park, which has been renamed Liberty Park. Right. You have areas. We got down there 7:30 in the morning, and still you have a lot of people, because it's probably hard to sleep in New York City in a sleeping bag on granite sidewalks.
Yeah, I hadn't had enough time on tour sleeping on the floor, you know.
Probably not the most comfortable thing in the world that they're putting up with. But so people are starting to wake up around 7:30. Now, they also have a kitchen there, not a kitchen that they're actually cooking things so much, as a kitchen where they're serving, and they're getting donations from people that come to visit, people bring food with them, and they've got these long tables set up where they have food available. On the Wednesday I was there, somebody donated a large number of pizzas, so they had pizza for everybody later on in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's a great thing for people if they can't go down there for the whole day, if they could just bring some food for these people.
And people are making donations of sleeping bags, of thermal underwear, because it's not, like I say,
it was cold last week.
It gets chilly.
It was very cold.
These folks aren't staying in Winnebagos. Like I mentioned, they are not in Winnebagos at night. They are there.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. These are the people that are directly affected by...
Yeah. It's almost like, and I'm beckoning back to after, during the Depression, after World War I, because the veterans that fought in World War I were promised a lot of things, the same way that a lot of veterans are promised a lot of things. A lot of promises made to veterans. And I had a young man on the show a couple weeks ago, Niklz, who's a lieutenant colonel retired from the Marine Corps, and he was quite critical of, particularly during the Bush administration, how they pretty much left these guys to rot when they came home. Very little supplied for them in terms of job training, in terms of housing or anything like that. But during the Depression, the veterans had been promised quite a few things by the Hoover administration, and they weren't getting them. So what they did was they set up a tent city in Washington, D.C., which they named Hooverville. And they actually showed up and stayed there for a long period of time. Now, this probably didn't sit too well with President Hoover, I guess, because he sent in a couple of young officers in training named MacArthur and Patton, who were not generals yet, obviously. They were working their way up through the ranks. And Hoover sent them in with the Army to chase veterans out of Washington. And some of them were killed.
Wow.
So it was a pretty rough time, and one of those times in American history where veterans were not treated well. As I say, generally they're not treated well ever.
Yeah, it's awful.
We never seem to give them their due.
They keep on finding more stuff for them to do overseas, and then they're not giving these people what they're told. Even the people that are at the very grunt of this is not getting their support that they need.
Yeah.
It's awful. When I first met the Cipher-Nauts, one of the first shows I did with them, we did in D.C. they did an Iraqi Veterans Against the War show.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It was great to see all those people out there.
That's fantastic. We're going to have to break it off there because we're done with our show. We might come back and do a second show possibly. But thank you very much for joining us. I'm David Stevenson. Mo Niklz, who has very well explained his name. And this is Progressive Soup, and we'll see you next time. Good night.